Steve Adubato back, and we are joined by Alan Blinder, who is a national correspondent with the New York Times. Alan, good to see you.
Good to see you, Steve. Thanks for having me.
You got it. We're taping on the 15th of July, be seen later. Front page of the New York Times, your paper, the gray lady, if you will. Education Department can be gutted. Justices decide. The Supreme Court of the United States has said, Mr. President, you can gut it. You can get rid of everyone there. What is the impact? And you write about education, higher education a lot. What do you believe the impact of that could be, would be?
Well, with what we hear from analysts on a pretty routine basis, former Department of Education officials, people who watch this world very closely, for higher education, they worry about delays to federal student aid going out and how that will all be processed going forward. The Department of Education is really kind of a funding clearinghouse, and they do a lot of civil rights investigations. So it remains to be seen how all this will really play out. But it was an extraordinary decision from the Supreme Court that when you talk to critics of it, they think will really transform the American educational landscape. And when you talk to supporters of it, they see it as removing bloat in the bureaucracy.
You know, the cliche, you say bloat, waste, fraud, excuse me, and abuse. Many presidents, disproportionate Republicans, have been talking about, quote, doing away with the Department of Education for years. Do you think those who advocate for getting rid of the Department of Education have any understanding of what the impact, the implications of doing that really are?
I think some people probably do. I think some people probably suspect that this is just it's government growth gone wild. You're right. It's been a critique of the department for basically its entire existence. There have been people crusading for its closure. So we'll see how it actually materializes. I mean, look, at this point, the department is, as the front page put it, being gutted, but it's not closed in full yet. But it's really going to be interesting and important to watch over the coming months and years how that actually materializes.
It's not as if higher education, the elites and ivory towers haven't been attacked by politicians in the White House or other places. I mean, it's been going on for years. But what is different about the Trump administration going after Harvard, other universities, on their DEI policies, on to what degree they're protecting Jewish students or fighting against anti-Semitism as they frame it in the White House, or a whole range of other, higher ed policies that they say, because you're not doing what we want you to do, we are going to cut funding. We're going to cut research dollars. Is that unprecedented in United States history?
Yeah, that's what you're getting at. I mean, the idea that you would have colleges really losing research funding, in Harvard's case, potentially billions of dollars, and funding it. To your point, we have heard especially conservatives criticize higher education and the elite institutions for a long time. But these tactics of opening these investigations, of cutting off funding, of, in the case of Harvard and Columbia, really sending specific demands that would involve hiring and admission. So elements of how the university is structured, that is something we have not seen before. And that's why you're hearing so much alarm from people in higher education. People in higher education are used to getting beaten up by politicians, by the press, by people online. What they're not used to is that beating going from a rhetorical one into one that really is striking at their bottom lines and how they operate.
So I'm a Rutgers grad, an alum. Thousands of others come out of the State University, New Jersey, Rutgers.
Sure.
Rutgers is getting cut as well. Rutgers is raising tuition as we speak. Other colleges and universities raising tuition, making serious cutbacks in staff and faculty. Do you believe that's what people voted for when Donald Trump won not only the Electoral College, but the popular vote, that he would be doing this as the president?
Well, I don't think he ran on the platform of raising tuition. Look, we've seen tuition rising at schools, even those that are not really in the biggest line of fire, so to speak. You're seeing tuition increases across the board. I'm taping this today from just outside of Omaha, and the University of Nebraska, for example, is raising tuition and doing some cuts in the coming academic year. So it's not just the elite schools; it's schools all over the board that are for a variety of reasons finding They need to raise tuition, cut services. The University of Minnesota is both raising tuition and cutting services. So, the idea of doing more with less, they are now students are going to be getting less for less, less for more. I'm sorry.
But hold on, you're in Nebraska right now,
Yeah.
and where you happen to be taping today, University of Nebraska. So you said that President Trump did not run on saying he wanted colleges and universities to raise tuition, but isn't it a de facto, and this is not an attempt to protect or defend higher education, the cost
Sure.
of higher education is too high, in general, has nothing to do with President Trump. But when you cut federal funding to the higher ed community, doesn't that de facto mean on some level you'll either have to make serious budget cuts and or raise tuition?
It can, yeah. It depends on the institution how acutely that's going to hit. In some places, it's not just they're getting squeezed by federal issues; it's that their state appropriations are flat. It's that their state appropriations are effectively being cut. That's part of the pressure too. It's not just a federal thing. There is, especially with major state universities, you'll see a fair number of schools that aren't getting more support from their state houses, and that's a significant drag on their financial model too. There are a lot of different inputs and outputs playing out here, but no, there's no doubt the federal element of it is a hugely consequential one, especially when it comes to research money.
On the DEI side, if higher ed institutions simply continue the same programs around diversity, equity, and inclusion, but just change the names of those programs and use different language to frame it. If people in the White House or others look on the website and they don't see the words diversity, equity, inclusion, but universities and colleges continue to engage in policies that diversify the campus, include others, and promote equity in higher education, is that enough, in your opinion, to keep those who are going after higher ed institutions on the DEI side to let it go? Or are they going to look deeper?
One of my colleagues was recently writing about the turmoil at the University of Virginia, one of the country's great public institutions, and the president there at Virginia, a guy named Jim Ryan, had been a deep advocate of DEI initiatives, and they renamed some things. I think someone had a title of it went from like a diversity VP to a community engagement VP. And at day's end, the Trump administration put enormous pressure on Virginia and said, look, you're not moving fast enough, you're not moving swiftly enough, you're hiding the ball. And now Jim Ryan is no longer going to be president of the University of Virginia. So no, the administration does not appear to be warm to simply, moving names around, moving titles around. And they appear intent on rooting out these types of programs and figuring out where they have been placed.
Yeah, last question on my end. Academic freedom. Those of us who have taught in higher education and been a part of the higher ed community understand and appreciate academic freedom. To what degree, from your experience as a journalist, is quote unquote academic freedom in peril?
Well, if you ask some of the universities that have gotten, into the Trump administration's line of fire, they see it as profoundly under threat. I mean, I was talking to a number of people at Harvard, of course, in recent weeks, and they've argued that any kind of intervention from the outside around hiring, around admissions, around faculty power, around how, around viewpoint diversity and demanding that certain things be taught or added or whatnot.
Or
That's
not
where
taught.
you're
Or not taught.
That's exactly. So they wanted to shut down DEI programs at Harvard as one of the conditions. When you get into that kind of space, what I hear routinely from presidents and chancellors and professors and others is that they see it as a significant encroachment on academic freedom, and that's kind of been the cornerstone of American academia for generations. So they see a profound threat emerging, and they're not quite sure the way out of it at this point.
Yeah, academic freedom and also freedom of the press. I think that's in the Constitution. Do you think it is, Alan?
I do think that, yes.
I'm pretty sure. Alan Blinder is national correspondent for the New York Times. Alan, we appreciate you being with us, particularly
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, particularly from Nebraska. Thank you, Alan.
My pleasure.
You got it. I'm Steve Adubato. We'll see you next time.
Think Tank with Steve Adubato is a production of the Caucus Educational Corporation. Funding has been provided by the Turrell Fund, a foundation serving children. New Jersey Sharing Network, Kane University. RWJ Barnabas Health. Let's be healthy together. The New Jersey Education Association. New Jersey's Clean Energy Program. Valley Bank. Horizon Blue Cross Blue Shield of New Jersey. And by the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey. Promotional support provided by Meadowlands Media. And by NJ Biz.
How long you been waiting?
About a half hour.
Brutal. This keeps up, I'm gonna miss my pickleball game.
I've been waiting 8 years for a kidney. What can you do?
Over 100,000 people in the U.S. are waiting for a life-saving transplant. But you can do your part in an instant. Register as an organ donor today at njsn.org.